The 1970s produced some of the most intimidating physiques the world has ever seen. This was the decade when bodybuilding evolved from athletic grace into pure, terrifying mass. These weren't digitally enhanced images or camera tricks. These were real men who walked into rooms and changed the atmosphere with their presence alone. The golden era mass monsters of the 70s combined enormous size with raw, functional strength that made them look genuinely dangerous. This decade brought together championship bodybuilders, Olympic weightlifters, powerlifters, and professional wrestlers who all shared one thing: physiques so huge and dense they seemed almost inhuman. Some became household names through competitions, films, and television. Others competed briefly, shocked the sport with their freaky size, and then disappeared into obscurity. The 1970s muscle giants didn't need perfect symmetry or vacuum poses to intimidate. They simply stood still, and their sheer width, thickness, and mass did all the talking. These classic physique icons built their bodies through brutal training, massive food intake, an era when bigger always meant better. They created silhouettes that would influence action films, professional wrestling, and modern bodybuilding for decades. Their intimidating presence came from legitimate physical development: thick bones, long muscle bellies, and structural frames that couldn't be faked. This list mixes famous legends with forgotten monsters because the 1970s produced intimidating physiques at every level of the sport. This is a definitive ranking of the 20 most intimidating physiques of the 1970s, where old-school muscle legends meet the biggest physiques in history, and every entry represents a different kind of terrifying mass. Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant wasn't just big. He was a legitimate physical anomaly who made everyone around him look like children. Standing over 7 feet tall and weighed between 450 and 520 pounds, depending on the year, Andre possessed a frame that seemed biologically impossible. His hands could palm a man's head like a basketball. His torso was wider than most men were tall. When Andre walked into a room, the entire space felt smaller. His massive shoulders, enormous chest, and tree trunk legs gave him proportions that belonged to mythology rather than reality. Unlike bodybuilders who built their mass through training, Andre's intimidating presence came from his gigantic skeletal structure, supporting hundreds of pounds of natural mass. He moved with surprising coordination for his size, which made him even more unnerving. Professional wrestlers, who were already huge men, looked tiny standing next to him. Andre represented the absolute ceiling of human size, a physique so intimidating that no amount of training could ever replicate it. Here remains the most physically imposing figure of the entire decade: Bill Pearl. Bill Pearl was in his 40s throughout the 1970s, but his physique carried mature, commanding thickness that younger competitors couldn't match. His chest had incredible depth, pushing forward like a granite shelf. His arms measured over 20 inches and maintained their size year-round without losing hardness. Pearl's shoulders were massively developed with dense, rounded caps that gave him enormous width across the clavicles. What made Pearl particularly intimidating was the quality of his mass. Every muscle looked carved from stone rather than simply inflated. His back thickness created a powerful silhouette from every angle. Unlike athletes who peaked briefly, Pearl maintained his intimidating size across multiple decades, proving his physique wasn't temporary or artificial. His stage presence radiated authority and control. When Pearl hit a most muscular pose, his entire upper body seemed to double in size. His traps, chest, and shoulder compressed together into a wall of muscle that looked absolutely brutal. Pearl represented old-school muscle legends who built their bodies through decades of consistent work, and his intimidating presence in the 70s proved that mature muscle carries its own unique threat. Rick Drazen. Rick Drazen embodied the wrestler-bodybuilder hybrid physique that made him look like an enforcer from a crime film. Standing 6 feet tall with a weight ranging from 220 to 230 pounds, Drazen had the broad, powerful frame of someone built for physical confrontation. His chest was extremely thick and wide, creating a barrel-like torso that suggested serious functional strength. Drazen's arms were dense and proportional, with thick biceps and forearms that looked ready for combat rather than just posing. His shoulders had that classic rounded look with heavy caps that made his upper body appear imposing from every direction. What separated Drazen from pure bodybuilders was his working-class, practical appearance. He didn't look polished or refined. He looked dangerous. His physique suggested he could actually use the muscle he built, which added a layer of authentic intimidation. Drazen moved through the bodybuilding world without achieving major titles, but anyone who saw him in person understood why he belonged on this list. His thick, powerful build represented the blue-collar side of 1970s mass, not the prettiest, but absolutely frightening in its raw utility. Tom Platz. Tom Platz emerged in the late 1970s with the most intimidating lower body the sport had ever witnessed. His quadriceps were absolutely monstrous, thick, striated, and so massively developed they seemed disproportionate to normal human anatomy. Platz's legs featured deep separation between muscles, with vascularity running across his thighs like rivers on a map. His hamstrings matched his quad development, creating complete leg mass that made his lower body look like it belonged to a different species. Standing 5 feet 8 inches and weighing between 200 and 225 pounds, Platz compressed enormous muscle density into a compact frame. His upper body was impressively developed, but his legs were the true source of his intimidation factor. When Platz performed squats, he went far deeper than anyone else, building functional strength that translated into legitimate physical power. His training intensity became legendary, screaming through sets, pushing past normal human limits, creating mass through sheer force of will. While other bodybuilders had impressive legs, Platz's lower body development created a unique kind of intimidation that focused entirely on one body part taken to absolute extremes. He proved that complete domination of a single area could be just as frightening as overall mass. Don Reinhoudt. Don Reinhoudt was one of the strongest human beings alive during the 1970s, and his physique reflected that raw, functional power. Standing 6 feet 3 inches and weighing over 360 pounds in competition condition, Reinhoudt looked like a walking fortress. His torso was absolutely massive, a barrel chest with enormous circumference that suggested he could absorb any physical impact. His traps rose up from his shoulders like mountain ranges, thick and powerful from years of heavy lifting. Reinhoudt's arms weren't defined like a bodybuilder's, but they were enormous in circumference with the kind of thickness that comes from moving thousands of pounds. His legs were pillars of mass, supported his huge frame through squats and deadlifts that broke world records. What made Reinhoudt particularly intimidating was the knowledge that his size came with legitimate, tested strength. This wasn't just show muscle. His physique had a brutal, utilitarian quality that suggested violence potential rather than aesthetic achievement. Reinhoudt's face often showed the strain of his training intensity, and his overall appearance radiated the kind of physical threat that came from being genuinely capable of incredible feats of strength. He represented the powerlifting side of 1970s intimidation. Pure, functional mass built for performance. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger dominated bodybuilding through the 1970s not because he was the absolute biggest, but because his physique combined enormous size with perfect proportions and unshakable confidence. Standing 6 feet 2 inches and weighing 230 to 240 pounds in competition shape, Arnold had a chest that seemed to project forward like armor plating. His arms measured over 22 inches with peaked biceps that became his signature. Arnold's shoulders were massively wide with rounded caps that created an incredible V-taper down to his relatively small waist. His back thickness gave him width from every angle, and his legs, while not his strongest body part, were still impressively developed. What made Arnold particularly intimidating wasn't just his physical development. It was his absolute certainty that he would win. His posing style was aggressive and dominant, making every competitor on stage look smaller by comparison. Arnold's face rarely showed doubt or strain. Instead, he projected cold calculation and complete control. His physique intimidated because it looked both powerful and perfectly structured, suggesting superior genetics and superior mentality. Arnold's placement at number 15 reflects that while others had more pure mass, his combination of size, proportion, and psychological dominance made him one of the most intimidating figures in bodybuilding history. Ken Patera. Ken Patera brought Olympic weightlifting strength into the world of professional wrestling, creating a physique that looked built for actual combat. Standing 6 feet 1 inch and weighing over 280 pounds, Patera had the barrel chest and thick arms of someone who moved serious weight. His shoulders and traps were enormously developed from years of overhead pressing and Olympic lifting movements. Patera's legs were massive and powerful, with the kind of thick development that comes from heavy squats and explosive lifting. His overall appearance was blocky and brutally strong rather than aesthetically refined. What made Patera intimidating was the functional nature of his mass. This wasn't a physique built for looking good. It was built for pressing hundreds of pounds overhead and throwing opponents around a wrestling ring. His arms had serious circumference with thick forearms that suggested crushing grip strength. Patera's face often showed intensity and aggression, matching the brutal nature of his physical development. He moved with the confidence of someone who knew his strength was legitimate and tested. Patera represented the crossover between strength sports and entertainment, bringing genuine physical intimidation into professional wrestling during an era when size and strength actually mattered. Serge Nubret. Serge Nubret possessed one of the most aesthetically perfect physiques of the 1970s, but his intimidation came from his razor-sharp conditioning and cold, emotionless presence. Standing 6 feet tall and weighing between 205 and 215 pounds, Nubret wasn't the biggest competitor, but his muscle quality was absolutely extraordinary. His chest was enormous and perfectly shaped, with deep striations visible even from a distance. Nubret's waist was impossibly small, creating a dramatic V-taper that made his upper body look even more massive. His arms and shoulders were round and full of the kind of muscle maturity that suggested years of perfect training. What made Nubret particularly intimidating was his stage demeanor. He posed with calm, calculated precision, never showing strain or emotion. This created an unsettling effect where his perfect physique seemed almost inhuman in its development. Nubret's skin was so thin and his conditioning so extreme that every muscle fiber seemed visible. His posing style was smooth and controlled, making everyone else look frantic by comparison. Nubret's intimidation factor came from the combination of near-perfect aesthetics with an emotionally cold presentation that suggested he existed on a different level than normal competitors. He looked like a statue that had. Serge Redding. Serge Redding was a Belgian Olympic weightlifter who carried over 300 pounds of mass on a 5 feet 10 inches frame, creating one of the most intimidating non-bodybuilder physiques of the entire decade. Redding was built like a human tank. His traps were absolutely enormous, rising up from his shoulders and creating a continuous slope of muscle from his neck to his arms. His back was incredibly thick with layers of muscle that suggested years of heavy pulling movements. Redding's legs were massive and powerful, with the kind of thickness that comes from squatting enormous weights for reps. His chest was barrel-like and pushed forward dramatically, giving him a powerful frontal profile. Unlike bodybuilders who train for aesthetics, Redding's mass came entirely from functional strength work, which gave his physique a brutal, utilitarian quality. His arms were thick throughout with serious circumference in both the upper arm and forearm. Redding's overall appearance suggested he could move incredible weights, and in fact, his Olympic lifting totals were among the highest in the world. What made Redding particularly intimidating was that his size came with zero concern for appearance. He was simply massive because the sport demanded massive strength, and that authentic, functional intimidation put him firmly among the most frightening physiques of the 1970s. Dennis Tinerino. Dennis Tinerino combined impressive height with commanding width, creating a silhouette that dominated any stage he stepped on. Standing 6 feet 1 inch and weighing between 220 and 230 pounds, Tinerino used his long torso and limbs to create a physique that looked both massive and aesthetically imposing. His shoulders were extremely wide with well-developed caps that gave him serious width across the clavicles. Tinerino's chest was thick and full, pushing forward with impressive mass while maintaining clean lines and separation. His arms were long, but still managed to appear full and muscular, which is difficult for taller bodybuilders to achieve. Tinerino's back had serious width and thickness, creating a powerful rear profile that looked absolutely huge when he hit a lat spread. What made Tinerino particularly intimidating was his stage presence. He posed with confidence and control, using his height advantage to look down at competitors and judges alike. His physique had mature, complete quality that suggested years of intelligent training rather than explosive genetic gifts. Tenorino's face often showed intense focus during competition, adding to a commanding presence. He represented the tall, powerful type of intimidating physique that filled space and dominated attention simply by existing in the room. Roy Callender. Roy Callender built a physique that looked carved from dark granite, with muscle density and separation that made him appear battle-hardened and dangerous. Standing 5 feet 8 inches and weighed between 200 and 205 pounds, Callender compressed serious muscle maturity into a compact frame. His chest showed deep striations even when relaxed, with the kind of muscle fiber visibility that suggested extremely low body fat maintained year-round. Callender's arms were thick and vascular, with pronounced veins running across his biceps and forearms that made him look perpetually ready for combat. His shoulders were rounded and dense, with the kind of cap development that made his upper body appear wider than it actually measured. What made Callender particularly intimidating was his overall appearance of hardness. Every muscle looked like it had been carved and then polished to a threatening shine. His posing style was aggressive and warrior-like, with facial expressions that suggested intensity and focus. Callender's physique didn't rely on pure size to intimidate. Instead, his extreme conditioning and dense muscle quality created a different kind of threat. He looked like someone whose body had been forged through difficult circumstances, rather than comfortable gym training. Callender's intimidation came from appearing absolutely ready for physical confrontation at any moment. Franco Columbu. Franco Columbu stood only 5 feet 5 inches, but packed 185 to 195 pounds of explosive, functional muscle onto his compact frame, creating one of the most intimidating pound-for-pound physiques of the decade. Columbu was a world-class powerlifter who deadlifted over 700 pounds, and his back thickness reflected that brutal strength. His lats were enormously wide and thick, creating a dramatic taper that made his waist look impossibly small. Columbu's legs were massively developed with deep separation and serious mass throughout. His chest was barrel-like and pushed forward dramatically, giving him serious frontal intimidation. What made Columbu particularly frightening was the knowledge that his muscle came with legitimate, tested strength. He could actually use every pound he carried. His arms were thick and dense, with biceps that peaked dramatically and forearms that looked like they could crush steel. Columbu's posing style was explosive and aggressive, with sudden transitions that suggested coiled power ready to release. His facial expressions during competition showed fierce intensity rather than showmanship. Columbu moved with the confidence of someone who knew his size and strength combination made him genuinely dangerous despite his shorter stature. He represented the compact, explosive type of intimidation that proved height meant nothing when mass and power were properly distributed. Bertil Fox. Bertil Fox earned the nickname Brutal Bertil, to a physique that looked like pure, compressed violence. Standing 5 feet 8 inches and weighing between 230 and 240 pounds, Fox carried enormous mass on a frame that made every muscle appear exaggerated and threatening. His chest was absolutely monstrous, thick, wide, and pushed forward with dramatic separation between the pectoral muscles. Fox's arms were huge with serious circumference throughout, featuring biceps that bunched into thick peaks and triceps that created horseshoe shapes visible even when relaxed. His shoulders were massively developed with heavy caps that gave him serious width. What made Fox particularly intimidating was the overall density of his physique. Every muscle appeared compressed and hardened to an extreme degree. His conditioning showed deep separation and striations across his entire body, making him look like an anatomy chart come to life. Fox's posing style was aggressive and powerful, with sudden muscle contractions that made his entire body appear to explode. His facial expressions during competition showed genuine intensity rather than theatrical performance. Fox's physique represented the brutal, raw power end of 1970s bodybuilding. Not the prettiest or most aesthetic, but absolutely frightening in its sheer muscular violence. He looked genuinely dangerous standing still. Robbie Robinson. Robbie Robinson built what became known as the Black Prince physique, a combination of mature muscle density, freaky vascularity, and rounded, powerful mass that made him look genuinely dangerous. Standing 5 feet 7 inches and weighing between 205 and 215 pounds, Robinson packed serious size onto his frame while maintaining incredible conditioning. His arms were enormous and spectacularly vascular, with veins running across his biceps like rivers on a relief map. Robinson's shoulders were perfectly rounded with heavy caps that created serious width across his upper body. His chest was thick and full with deep separation, and his back had serious width when he hit a lat spread. What made Robinson particularly intimidating was the maturity and hardness of his muscle tissue. He looked like someone who had been training intensely for decades, with muscle quality that suggested serious dedication. His posing style featured the famous cobra silhouette where he spread his lats while looking over his shoulder, creating a hooded, threatening appearance. Robinson's facial expressions during competition showed confident aggression rather than strain. His physique combined size, density, vascularity, and presence into a package that looked genuinely threatening even in relaxed poses. Robinson represented the mature, seasoned type of intimidation that came from years of building legitimate muscle mass. Ed Corney. Ed Corney didn't have the biggest physique on this list, but his combination of iron-hard muscle density and aggressive posing style created intimidation that went far beyond his 195 to 205-pound weight, standing 5 feet 7 inches. Corney compressed serious muscle maturity into a compact package that looked carved from granite. His shoulders were absolutely extraordinary, ultra-striated with deep separation between the deltoid heads and veins running across the surface. Corney's chest had serious thickness and showed dramatic definition even from a distance. His arms featured pronounced peaks and serious vascularity, with muscle hardness that looked genuinely painful. What made Corney particularly intimidating was his posing style. He hit every pose with sudden, explosive contractions that made his muscles seem to burst out of his skin. His facial expressions were intense and focused, showing zero theatricality and complete seriousness about displaying his physique. Corney's overall appearance suggested that every ounce of body fat had been stripped away, leaving only dense, hard muscle behind. His conditioning was extreme enough to show individual muscle fibers, creating an anatomical appearance that seemed almost inhuman. Corney proved that intimidation didn't require maximum size. Instead, extreme hardness, maturity, and aggressive presentation could create a different kind of threat that was just as effective. Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer possessed a physique that looked like it had been carved from stone by an angry sculptor. Dense, angular, and absolutely brutal in its presentation. Standing 5 feet 8 inches and weighing between 225 and 240 pounds, Mentzer compressed enormous muscle density into a compact frame that looked almost geometrically perfect. His shoulders and chest appeared to have been chiseled from granite, with sharp lines and dramatic separation that created a harsh, threatening appearance. Mentzer's arms were massively developed with thick biceps that showed deep splits and cuts even when relaxed. His back thickness was extraordinary, creating serious width and power from every rear angle. What made Mentzer particularly intimidating was his dark, intense posing style. He hit every pose with fierce concentration, and his facial expression suggested genuine aggression rather than performance. Mentzer's physique didn't have the flowing aesthetic quality of some competitors. Instead, it looked hard-edged and dangerous. His muscle bellies were short and thick, creating bunched, compressed mass that looked like coiled power ready to explode. Mentzer's overall appearance suggested someone who had pushed training to absolute extremes, building mass through sheer force of will and intensity. His intimidation came from the combination of enormous density, harsh muscularity, and the psychological intensity he brought to every stage appearance. Paul Grant. Paul Grant represented the blue-collar side of intimidating physiques, blocky, rugged, and built through hard work rather than perfect genetics. Standing 5 feet 9 inches and weighing over 220 pounds, Grant had the kind of thick, powerful build that suggested years of heavy labor combined with serious gym training. His torso was particularly impressive, with a barrel chest and thick, powerful shoulders that created a working man silhouette. Grant's arms were big and dense without the aesthetic refinement of top competitors, but their thickness suggested genuine functional strength. His legs were solid and powerful, supporting his upper body mass with serious development throughout. What made Grant particularly intimidating was his rough, unpolished appearance. He didn't look like a polished competitor. He looked like someone who could throw hands if necessary. His physique had a practical, utilitarian quality that suggested the muscle had been built for use rather than display. Grant's facial features were hard and masculine, matching the brutal nature of his physical development. He moved with the confidence of someone whose strength came from real-world applications rather than just gym work. Grant's intimidation came from representing the working-class warrior type. Not the prettiest or most refined, but absolutely dangerous in his raw, powerful presence. He looked like someone you wouldn't want to challenge. Sergio Oliva. Sergio Oliva possessed perhaps the most alien-looking physique in bodybuilding history, with proportions that seem biologically impossible. Standing 5 feet 10 inches and weighing between 225 and 240 pounds, Oliva had shoulders so monumentally wide, they created a silhouette that looked like a different species. His shoulder width was extraordinary, creating dramatic angles from his neck to his arms that seemed to defy normal human structure. Oliva's waist was impossibly tiny, making his upper body appear even more massive by comparison. His arms were enormous, with long muscle bellies that created peaks and valleys of mass throughout. Oliva's traps exploded upward from his shoulders, creating continuous slopes of muscle that suggested explosive power. His back width was legendary. When he hit a lat spread, he looked like a cobra spreading its hood, with width that extended far beyond his hip line. What made Oliva particularly intimidating was that his proportions looked genuinely wrong for a human being, as if his genetics had broken normal physical rules. His posing style was confident and dominant, with Oliva clearly aware of his physical superiority. His facial expressions were calm but commanding, suggesting he knew no one could match his structural advantages. Oliva's intimidation came from looking like evolution's mistake. Too wide, too powerful, too massive to be real. Kal Szkalak. Kal Szkalak built one of the freakiest, most unusual physiques of the 1970s, a compact mass monster with angular, strange muscle development that looked genuinely unsettling. Standing 5 feet 9 inches and weighing over 220 pounds, Szkalak compressed serious size into a frame that made every muscle appear exaggerated and oddly shaped. His back width was particularly shocking, with lats that spread far beyond his hip line and created a dramatic, bulldog-like silhouette. Szkalak's muscle insertions were unusual, creating angles and shapes that didn't match typical bodybuilding aesthetics. His arms were thick and powerful with strange peaks and valleys, and his shoulders had heavy development that added to his blocky, compressed appearance. What made Szkalak particularly intimidating was that his physique looked genuinely weird. Not beautiful or aesthetic, but freaky in a way that suggested something had gone wrong or too right during his development. His overall mass was dense and powerful, with a kind of thickness that suggested serious strength behind the strange appearance. Szkalak's posing showed off these unusual proportions without trying to hide them. His facial expressions were intense and focused, matching the freaky nature of his physical development. Szkalak represented the truly bizarre end of 1970s mass, a physique that intimidated precisely because it looked wrong, strange, and genuinely unsettling in its compressed, angular power. Lou Ferrigno. Lou Ferrigno stands as the ultimate mass monster of the 1970s, combining towering height with near 300-pound off-season size to create the single most physically intimidating bodybuilder of the entire decade. Standing 6 feet 4 inches with a competition weight between 275 and 295 pounds. Ferrigno possessed size that made everyone else look small by comparison. His arms measured 22 to 23 inches with long muscle bellies that created dramatic peaks when flexed. Ferrigno's chest measured 58 inches around with enormous mass that pushed forward like armor plating. His shoulders were massively wide with heavy caps that created serious width across his already enormous frame. Ferrigno's back had incredible width and thickness, and his legs were proportionally developed to support his massive upper body. What made Ferrigno the most intimidating physique of the 1970s was a combination of his height, weight, and structural frame. He didn't just look big, he looked like a different species of human. His long limbs were packed with muscle, creating size that actually appeared dangerous. Ferrigno's role as the Incredible Hulk reinforced his monster status, making him synonymous with superhuman size. His facial features were strong and masculine, and his presence in any room was absolutely commanding. Ferrigno represented the absolute ceiling of natural human size during the Golden Era, the biggest, widest, most intimidating physique of the entire decade. The 1970s stands as a once-in-history decade for producing intimidating physiques that combine enormous size, functional strength, and raw physical presence. These 20 men represented the absolute peak of human muscular development during an era before digital enhancement, camera tricks, or modern pharmaceutical protocols. Some became world-famous champions, action stars, and cultural icons. Others competed briefly, shocked audiences with their freaky size, and then disappeared from the sport entirely. But every single physique on this list changed the shape of bodybuilding, strongman competition, professional wrestling, and action cinema. These classic physique icons built their bodies through brutal training sessions, massive food intake, and genetic advantages that placed them far beyond normal human development. Their intimidating presence came from legitimate mass, thick bones, long muscle bellies, and structural frames that looked genuinely dangerous. Whether standing 5 feet 5 inches or 7 feet 4 inches, weighing 185 pounds or 520 pounds, each of these men created a unique type of physical intimidation that couldn't be replicated or faked. Their silhouettes became templates for action heroes, wrestling characters, and a modern concept of what extreme muscularity looks like. The golden era mass monsters of the 1970s proved that intimidation comes in many forms: pure height and weight, freaky proportions, extreme density, functional strength, or psychological dominance. These old-school muscle legends built physiques that still influence fitness culture 50 years later, reminding us that the biggest physiques in history came from an era when size was earned through years of dedication rather than constructed through technology. The 1970s muscle giants remain the standard for truly intimidating physical development.